Hello all. Today we'll be discussing about Selenium automation or test automation using the Selenium tool. So before discussing about the Selenium tool and its features, let's have a brief on what exactly is the automation tool. So automation tool is a package or a software which has an capability to interact with the software at rest or the application at rest, and also it provides a high level of programming language support so that we can develop our own test scripts or the keywords, and we have a framework which can manage the execution of the test cases and debugging of the test cases. Coming to the various tools available in the market, we have there are a few open source as well as commercial tools available. When it comes to the commercial tools, Quick Test Professional by HP is the most popular one, which supports web as well as desktop based applications. And when it comes to the web application automation, we have a good open source tool called Selenium, which is gaining popularity nowadays, which supports any rich web based application automation. Apart from that, there are few other tools like Rational Functional Tester and Test Complete, which supports various test automation as well. Coming to Selenium, Selenium is a tool which has a robust set of APIs and which will help you out in development of the test automation for rich web-based applications. Also, it has a capability to provide necessary functions specifically designed for web application testing, and it has a capability to identify the UIs in various different ways so that it can compare the expected outcome from the actual application behavior. This is in brief of what exactly is the Selenium tool. When it comes to the features of the Selenium, we have an support of cross-browser testing. That means it can support the execution of our test script developed in various browsers simultaneously. Again, it also supports various programming languages like Java and C hash and Ruby, and it always have a provision of adding some kind of verification or assertion statements which will compare the expected with the actual results of the application. We have an inbuilt reporting mechanism with Selenium itself, which generates an HTML report once a test suite or test cases has been executed. Let's have a quick comparison about Selenium versus the most popular commercial tool QTP. As the major advantage of using Selenium, it's an open source. When it comes to QTP, it's licensed and very expensive. And the application support, as you see here, we have a web-based application support with Selenium, but with QTP it does support both web-based as well as client server or the desktop based applications as well. The most important feature is the support for browsers. Selenium does support every browser available in the market, and but QTP does support only IE and Firefox at the moment. And there are various other features like object oriented support, and let's have a brief discussion on what are the components involved in the Selenium tool. We have Selenium IDE, which is an integrated development environment where I can record my scripts and playback the scripts once the recording is completed. And when it comes to remote control or the Selenium RC, which has the capability to execute the script recorded in the IDE. And the next version of Selenium is Selenium WebDriver, which has a direct capability of interacting with the web browser and performing the actions on the browser natively. And when it comes to the Selenium Grid, which is an tool available so that we can distribute our test execution on multiple platforms on the browsers simultaneously. So let's have a simple installation procedure involved to install the Selenium IDE on the web browser. So Selenium IDE is a simple add-on which can be installed on Firefox browser. So you can go to the Firefox browser and search for Selenium IDE. You can always redirect to seleniumhq.org and the official website of Selenium. So once the IDE is installed, you can go back to the tools menu and select the Selenium IDE in the browser, which has a menu options of file, edit and actions, and it has an start and stop recording of button here, and it has a script area where it actually records on the actions you are performing on the Firefox browser. And we have a log area which will provide you the detailed log of the steps that are being executed. As you see here, the access area is just nothing but the command, target and the value, where if I can select a particular command, it does provide the detailed information about each command, the type of input does it takes. You can always go back to the reference tab available in the IDE, which will give you the reference of the command which you are using. And this is a replay toolbar where once the recording is completed, you can use these replay buttons which will execute a single test case or a test suite completely. So let's discuss about a few commands which are generally used when you are opting for Selenium test automation. So in order to click on a link or a button, we'll be using the command called click or the click and wait. Click and wait is the command which will click on a particular link or button and wait for the complete page loads. And in order to type some kind of value or enter some kind of value in a text box, so we'll be using the command called type or send keys. And we have a command called select, which will select a particular value in a combo box or a drop down. And we have a command called click or check, which will actually select a radio button or the checkboxes available on the web page. So we have commands as well as Selenium IDE, which has the capability to record and play back the scripts. We need to have a mechanism of adding and verification. Verification is nothing but the assertions where it will verify the actual behavior of the application with the expected behavior of the application. The difference between the verification and assertion is verification will verify the expected element on the web page, and if the element is not available, it will continue further with the next step of execution. But when it comes to the assertion, it does verify the expected element or the object on the web page. If the object or the element is not available, the script will be aborted, saying this particular step is failed and it cannot continue further. Let's look at the various assertion statements. Like we can assert a particular text is present on the web page or not, or we can assert a text within a particular element having that particular text is available or not, and where assert title is nothing but we can verify a particular web page title is matching with our requirement. And assert value, let's say I want to verify a value available in the text box, we'll be using the command called assert value. And assert element present, I want to verify a particular element is present on the page or not, then we will be using the assert element present. The most important part of any test automation is identifying the elements or the UI elements or the locators in a proper manner, so that there won't be any kind of maintenance with respect to object identification until unless the application is being completely changed. So there are different ways of identifying a UI element or object on the web page. Selenium does support, or it can accept any kind of object identification. That means I can use either ID of the element or name of the element, and even link text available in order to identify a link on the page. Or other ways of identifying is CSS is nothing but the cascading style sheets. I can use any combination of CSS, like I can use tag as well as ID, and or tag with on combination of class, and tag in combination of attribute. For example, CSS equals to A represent the anchor tag, and the test represent the ID of that particular anchor tag, or even A representing the anchor tag and the test representing the class. Similarly, I can use the attribute as well, like anchor tag or the input is the tag here, and the attribute is name. I can, for that matter, I can use any attribute, like I can use class or href or any attribute available with respect to that particular HTML tag. Also, there is another way of identifying an object using XPath. XPath is nothing but the hierarchy of the element which is located on that particular page, right from the root element to the leaf of that particular element. We use the XPath, or we have a DOM, document object model. We'll be using the methods called get element by ID or get element by names, and even we can use the name of that particular object or the index value of that particular object located on the document or the page. So these are the major or the important ways of identifying the objects on a web page. So let's have a quick look about the limitations of Selenium IDE. Selenium IDE is a simple add-on with the Firefox browser alone. We don't have, or there are no IDE add-ons available for the rest of the browsers, and it does not support any kind of loopings or conditional statements which cannot be added in the Selenium IDE. Selenium IDE does execute the commands of Selinus or the Selenium commands. We cannot really include any kind of our programming or the user-defined programming language commands in the Selenium IDE. So also one of the limitation is we cannot really verify any kind of dynamic content available on the web page. So these are the major limitations involved with Selenium IDE. So in order to overcome some of the limitations with the Selenium IDE or the typical record and playback kind of a scenario, we have the upgraded version or the next version of Selenium called Selenium RC or the remote control. The major advantage is we can execute the script recorded in the IDE and export it to execute on different browser. It's nothing but the cross-browser testing. Also, RC is nothing but the remote control. We have a server involved which is developed in Java, which will control the browser on which you are going to execute the script. This controlling is nothing but it acts as a proxy or the middleman in between in your browser and your test scripts. There are client libraries for each and every language you are using. As you know, Selenium does support the programming of your test scripts in various languages. For each language we have specific client libraries, or nothing but the supporting programs or the libraries available, we can always make use of those client libraries and build our own automation test scripts. Just to have a brief on how exactly Selenium RC works, a set of JavaScript programs will be injected while launching the browser by Selenium RC server. So this particular programs will be loaded automatically into your browser. RC will be taking care of launching the browser and executing the Selenium commands on the browser and closing the browser once the execution is completed.